Does anyone remember how it felt when the dark theater suddenly swallowed you up and you felt like you were falling straight down? As a child, I would skip school every time Journey to the Center of the Earth was shown in a theater so I could squeeze myself into those creaky wooden seats where the smell of burnt pop filled the air. The groaning ceiling fans and dim lights made it feel like a rite opening the door to another world. Then something strange took place. I could hear my own beating when Professor Lindenbrook held up the burned map. The whole theater was so quiet. The kids around me backed away when they heard the deep growl of the Dimetrodons. There were forests of huge mushrooms that looked like they were from a fever dream, and the flames lit up moldy stone walls. As if they were really being pulled down. It's stronger than leather. We thought, naively but beautifully, that there was a real world moving right under our cheap rubber shoes. But as I got older, I found out something that made my spine chill. Those scenes that enchanted a whole generation were shot in a studio that was so hot that metal melted and players were in real danger. The crew lived in fear every day that if the movie didn't do well, 20th Century Fox would go out of business right away. Behind this fun family trip was a backstage full of accidents, bad choices, and Hollywood secrets that had been kept secret for over 60 years. Today, let's think about that trip down into the earth. But this time, we'll go into the dark facts that people haven't known for 50 years. 15. Behind the lights, the untold story of life and death on the set of a movie. The process of making movies has never been easy. There is a trial by fire where people have to face their deepest fears in exchange for a few minutes of fame. As the team explored Carlsbad Caverns, they went deep into the earth, where cold air lurked and darkness swallowed up all sounds. They entered a world with very little light. People could feel their chest tighten at the sound of even a small sound, as if the rocks were whispering an old warning. You don't belong here. The rocky paths were so narrow that the torches looked like they were about to go out. Droplets falling in a regular way, making a constant feeling of unease. Then bad things almost happened. A layer of plaster fell off all at once. The players were suffocated by clouds of dust. No one knew what was real and what was film at that time. In a panicked whisper, someone on the team said, "If we don't make it out, at least let this scene live on after us." Scenes above ground that looked normal were really a different kind of torture. The raft getting sucked into the tornado wasn't just for show, it was a real nightmare. The actors wore heavy costumes and stood on a stage that was shaking and tilted, as hundreds of gallons of water fell on them like a waterfall. Arlene Dahl passed out in the middle of a take, gasping for air. She was taken outside to rest for a while. When she came back, she wiped her face and whispered, as if she were trying to calm her own heart. "We have to be strong too, not just the heroes." The set was very harsh, with burning lights and heat that made it hard to use makeup and equipment, changing into streaks on the faces of players. A big lighting stand fell and missed a team member by just a few inches. Even though no one spoke, everyone knew that they were lucky to be alive. James Mason stood there in the middle of the chaos without leaving the set. He was sweating and breathing hard, but he didn't move back. According to other people, he didn't listen to the advice to rest because he knew that if he fell first, the whole crew would fail. And the darkness was the hardest part. The players in torchlit scenes pretended to be scared, but their real fear showed in every move. Every flickering light and every step that echoed seemed to be a voice calling from deep within the earth. Even the toughest of them would sometimes choke back tears because they knew they were really stuck and no one could hear their cries. When the movie was finally finished and shown on a big screen, people only saw a big adventure. They didn't see the fainting spells, the lungs burning from the stone dust, or the hands shaking from fear and cold. That's the truth that no one lies about to make up a story. The team has to go through real hell sometimes. What do you think about this dangerous trip? Leave your thoughts below, because there are people who worked hard on every movie, and they did a lot more than you think. 14. 20th Century Fox saved on the brink of collapse. The film's huge success was due to the hundreds of people working hard at the studio and putting their hopes on the flashing light on the screen. Fox was like a big ship that was rocking back and forth in a storm in the late 1950s. Its money and trust were being drained by big projects that went badly. In the studio's long halls, some people said that each financial meeting was like being in a quiet courtroom. Everyone in the kingdom knew that if one more movie didn't do well, it could all fall apart. After that, they decided to take a chance on an impossible adventure called Journey to the Center of the Earth. At a time when every dollar was worth its weight in gold, this movie needed monsters, huge caves, and expensive special effects. A risk that was not only brave, but almost Needed badly. Like someone standing on the edge of a cliff and looking into the abyss while taking a step forward because there was no other way. After that, the miracle took place. In 1959, cinemas were packed with people whose hearts were still open to the wonders of the time. They gasped when they saw glowing seas underground, shivered when they saw prehistoric animals, and fell silent when they saw both big and small adventures. The word got around so fast that even Fox was surprised by how long the lines were outside of movie theaters. It didn't just do well, the movie saved a company from itself. The image got better, and money came in. Again, big projects like Cleopatra and The Sound of Music could happen. This was the most beautiful part. Fox was going all the way to the bottom of the earth while the people in the movie were going down to look for hope. Just to find life where everything else seemed to be lost. Journey to the Center of the Earth wasn't just a fun movie, we can see now. It served as a warning that a daring idea can save the whole world sometimes. A crazy bet can become a legend. 13. The trip might not have started if you hadn't gotten there on time. Some moments in movie history are like metal hitting metal deep underground, blinding you all of a sudden and changing the direction of something that seemed set in stone. One of these times was when James Mason took over as Professor Oliver Lindenbrook. A lucky turn of events at the last minute made one of the most interesting adventure figures of the 1950s possible. The name that was written on the script at first was Clifton Webb. He was an actor whose cold eyes and sharp wit once made Hollywood tremble. He spent weeks with Charles Brackett reading and talking about every word as if they were creating a statue to find its soul. But Webb dropped out just days before shooting started because she had to have surgery for 2 hernias. The news hit like a rock. Everything was on the verge of falling apart as sets built budget, approved plan, and locked everything down. Into that chaos came James Mason, like a new flashlight flashing through a dark hall of doubt. He paused. As a cautious and intuitive man, he could feel how bold the story was. But he agreed, and Lindenbrook started to breathe after that. Webb was cold and sharp, but Mason had a strange warmth, the seriousness of a seasoned scholar, a dry sense of humor like dust on an old book, and a heart hidden behind eyes that knew how weak people were. He spoke in a deep, steady voice that was never flashy but quietly powerful. Someone on the team remembered that when Mason read his first lines, the room was dead silent for a few seconds. It was like they were hearing someone who had been playing the part his whole life, not someone who was cast in a hurry. He muttered words backstage when it was quiet, like he was remembering something. Most of the time, the best trips start with something no one is ready for. A member of the team gave a small smile as they thought about how bad things could have been if you hadn't come in time. There may not be any more movies for us to dream about. Mason helped Lindenbrook become more than just a teacher. He was the movie's driving heart, and Byrne will be remembered for that. A last-minute choice that made the movie's soul perfect. 12. The bad fight between James Mason and Arlene Dahl. The fight between James Mason and Arlene Dahl wasn't just small-scale entertainment. Anyone there could feel the air getting thicker like dust in the caves where they were shooting because of a crack that was spreading under layers of makeup. Arlene Dahl, who was wearing a wet, heavy dress, yelled above the roar of the water, "Stop! It's dangerous," in the famous whirlpool scene. But Mason always fought back, as calm as a stone. His voice was sharp. "Do not talk, Arlene." No one was brave enough to breathe. It wasn't a show. It was real. They shot the scene over and over, and each time, Dahl looked at Mason with wide eyes full of fear and anger. No one could tell the difference between what belonged to the actors and what belonged to the characters. There wasn't a big fight. A few lines were changed to make the character directions more disciplined, while Dahl wanted them to be more expressive. Arlene Dahl, who was pretty, smart, and sharp, refused to bow down to Mason. A man who ruled every frame with a strict, focused determination. Then little things turned into sparks. Dahl moved into the better light. Mason's jaw got tight. Dahl said something to tease. Mason replied with a stony silence that was louder than a shout. Later, a team member said it reminded them of a storm. There was no need to fight. The air changed just by being in the same room. In a strange and cruel way, it was this tension that made their connection on screen seem so real. There were fights, competitions, and anger. People believed every look, every breath, and every shaking moment because of that. I've always thought that pride can make great stars awfully childish and strangely beautiful. How about you? 11. What the audience didn't see. Journey to the Center of the Earth used the most basic magic of movies to create an underground world, long before CGI. Human hands, thought, and tricks that were so clever they fooled people into thinking they were seeing something no one had ever seen before. The huge seas below were made up of small models made of salt and glass. The raging streams were colored sand that was poured backwards into the camera. The prehistoric animals, like Dimetrodon's horned lizards and huge salamanders, were real animals that had fins, shadows, and a little lighting magic added to them to make them look like beasts from a long time ago. People in the audience were scared, and the crew was laughing so hard they couldn't. A tiny lizard was playing a dinosaur. Behind the scenes, artists tested angles, layers of glass, and grains of salt with all their might, making these man-made places feel legendary. When the director looked through the lens one time, he said in a whisper, "If people believe this shot, we've made magic." When someone replied, the orange glow of handmade lava magic lit them up. This magic lasts longer than any illusion. The bright, boiling lava that the actor was walking on was actually chemicals, lights, and smoke from an old machine. But it looked like the last thing someone would see before hell swallows them up on the screen. That stuff that looked like stone tunnels, crystal caves, and endless rock structures was just foil, models, and backgrounds. But when artists worked with them, they turned them into living, moving worlds. It's not a surprise that the movie was up for sound, art direction, and special effects Oscars. What they made wasn't just skill. It was how it felt. The sense that there was a living, moving world behind the screen that was calling us to enter. We can see the models and visual tricks now, but for some reason, the charm hasn't changed. Things made by hand, sweat, and thought are sometimes the best. Have a soul that can't be replaced by beauty. Have these results ever fooled you? Or does this fake magic make you love the movie even more? 10. It's possible to open a door in time with music by Bernard Herrmann. His film score does the same thing. Bernard Herrmann did just that with Journey to the Center of the Earth. He wrote memories instead of music. If you ever watch the movie on a wet afternoon or in front of a yellow TV from the 1980s, you might remember how it made you feel, with a chill going down your spine from the first notes. Herrmann didn't want the usual shimmering sound of strings. A low, thick, and heavy set of instruments pulled the crowd down into the ground like a sleeping giant's breath. Woodwinds, brass, drums, and especially the organ make a sound that is both holy, like in a church, and wild, like the wind howling through untouched gorges. His sound doesn't go up or down, it just falls. It shapes you whether you're a watcher now or a kid back then. You'll feel like you're walking with the exploration team. Every step made a sound in the dark. You can hear every heartbeat through layers of rock that are hundreds of meters thick. The melody gets so small at times that it sounds like someone is speaking to you. Try not to breathe too loudly. This spot has been asleep for a very long time. During this time, Pat Boone, the pop star whose smile was as bright as the sun, almost lost his voice. He brought carefully thought-out songs to the project, thinking that the moment he stepped into the underworld, the music he brought with him would blend with it. Still, Daryl Zanuck decided behind closed doors that Boone's music is too bright after seeing the test showing. This story needs some darkness. So almost all of the songs were taken out. They were pushed to the background and only lived on as separate EPs, like memories that were cut up and never found a place in the movie. In a strange way, that cruel choice made the experience fuller. There were no songs to lighten the mood or happy tunes to break the scary quiet of the underground. Only the organ shaking like a warning, the drums beating like the earth's heartbeat, and the sad, suffocating sound that made the whole room feel like it was closing in on the watcher. 9. It's hard to believe that a little duck named Gertrude won the hearts of everyone on a trip deep into the earth, where huge holes swallow up all light and prehistoric creatures hide in thick fog. She was so little that a single falling rock could have killed her. But as soon as she came on, she brought the whole movie closer to being real. She was funny, playful, and a little rebellious. Gertrude was added to the script as a funny touch and as a feathered friend to make tense scenes less tense. But on the hot, chaotic set, she turned into a character that the director and players had to give up on. To get just a few seconds of on-screen, the crew had to switch between several ducks, each one responsible for a different scene, as if they were in charge of a small but very demanding cast. Under the hot lights, Gertrude quacked like she was protesting the whole world. She ran back and forth, pecking at players' sleeves, and wouldn't listen to anyone. Pat Boone once laughed so hard he cried and said, "I swear Gertrude was treated like a queen. A red carpet was the only thing we didn't give her." At times, the whole shoot had to stop because the duck lost interest, leaving the director useless as a small animal messed up the plans of dozens of people. But it was the chaos that made Gertrude the movie's gentle heart. In a world of quakes, fire, and huge monsters, her wide eyes and tiny quacks were a different kind of heartbeat that was weak but full of life. This wasn't just a side story about Gertrude. She turned into a warm memory in a scary story. Something to tell us that there are still small, innocent things in the earth that can melt our hearts. 8. Pat Boone wanted 15% of the movie's profits. He joined the project like a traveler who got pulled onto a road he hadn't planned to take. He never thought he would be a part of an underground story when he was young and the heat of the stage still felt good on his skin. Boone used to joke that he wasn't born to breathe between fake rock walls, but Hollywood always finds a way to get people to go down dangerous but thrilling roads. Boone and his manager didn't take his regular big salary. Instead, they took a risk and agreed to take a smaller payment up front in exchange for 15% of the future profits. It wasn't just a number. It was a risky bet made by a young man who had mixed feelings about fate and faith in himself. That day, fate smiled. The movie became a worldwide hit. Making that 15% into a golden ticket, a success Boone never thought would come from a movie he at first thought would be a passing fancy. The bitter irony is that the road, which was paved with money, also had a layer of sorrow on it. It was important to Boone that music be a part of the movie. He wanted the sound of his voice to fill the dark tunnels and light the way for the journey. The test crowds didn't like the singing scenes, though. The songs were taken out one by one, leaving him on set, where he felt most at ease, like he'd lost his voice. He made a lot of money, but he lost the thing he loved most. A riddle like the last candle going out in a dark cave. Perhaps Boone's desire to feel something led him to whisper in the wings, his voice low and soft like an unfinished tune. Getting ahead costs something, and sometimes you have to give up a part of your soul. You didn't think you'd lose. And co-star James Mason, who was older and wiser, only answered with a look that was as soft as an echo. In Hollywood, everyone has to pay. We all pay in our own ways. Did Boone make the right deal, or did he leave something more valuable behind? 7. The salamanders dressed up as dinosaurs. Have you ever felt this way? That feeling of fully believing in something that you know isn't real but still shaking like it's right there on the edge of your seat? Before CGI, when movies were more innocent and risky, Hollywood made monsters with both simple and clever techniques. The scary Dimetrodons in Journey to the Center of the Earth were actually South American salamanders dressed as dinosaurs. There were fake sails, little horns, and latex patches stuck on the skin of the tiny animals. They had many layers of paint carefully put on to make them look like ancient animals. By today's standards, everything that was made by hand was clumsy, but it was beautiful in its bold simplicity. The salamanders got antsy under the bright studio lights and randomly went to dark places. Some even climbed up into the rafters, leaving the team below to crane their necks and worry while half laughing and half groaning. According to Pat Boone, when you look back, there's a certain amount of life in their clumsy moves that smooth CGI can lose. Every slow blink, every jumpy step, and every little breath. All of them made the monsters seem very real. The kids of that time must still remember how they seemed to have crawled out of the Earth's core and caused a deep fear. That might have been the magic that won Salamander some glue, smart lights, and a lot of people's patience at that time. Enough to make an underground world so scary that whole theaters held their breath. 6. Changing a lot from the book and adding a female character. In fact, the movie makers changed a lot of important things to make the story more interesting for moviegoers. It moved from Hamburg, Germany, to Edinburgh, Scotland, to be the starting place. The main characters also got new names. Professor Otto Lidenbrock changed his name to Oliver Lindenbrock, and his nephew Axel changed his name to Alec McEwen. These changes not only made the characters more relatable to British and American viewers, but they also created a historical and cultural background that fit well with the story while keeping the pace fast and the adventure story interesting. The addition of Carla Gutterborg, a woman played by Arlene Dahl, was one of the most important changes. In the book, she doesn't appear, but in the movie, she became an emotional anchor who brings love, loss, and bravery. In this trip, Carla is more than just a friend. She builds conflict, interaction, and relationships between the male characters. Her presence made the story better and gave it a feminist point of view that was missing from stories mostly about guys. The movie also added the bad guy Count Saknussemm, played by Thayer David, to make the journey more interesting and competitive. Nature is the main source of danger in the book. Prehistoric animals, but the movie added greedy people as a force, which made the stress and suspense higher for viewers. 5. The attack by Dimetrodon was aimed in a more specific direction. When the Dimetrodons attack, many watchers only saw a typical monster scene with roars, rubbery sails that wobble, and characters screaming in fear. There is a deeper message behind the show, though. It is thought that director Henry Levin planned this attack to show how people are afraid of going backwards. That old primal forces still live inside us and are ready to erupt no matter how far science comes. The lighting makes this idea stronger. As the big snakes come out of the darkness, the searchers' flashlights get dim, as if they were being sucked into the past. The animals move so slowly that it's almost like they are under a spell. They look more like ghosts of evolution than real hunters. At the time, critics said it was just a cheap thrill. But modern film experts say it's one of the most psychologically deep scenes of the decade. At that point, most people didn't see the meaning. They only had fear and energy. But when primal fear and visual effects came together, they made a strong and unforgettable moment. Every sail and rough trip to the center of the earth showed not only monsters from below, but also the monsters that live inside each of us. For the villain Count Saknussemm's line that scares everyone is the line that always comes to mind when I think of Journey to the Center of the Earth. The bad guy with Thayer David's face and eyes that look right through people, not because they're interested but because they don't like them. As the mission shakes in the deep darkness of the earth, Saknussem lets out a line that sounds like a curse: "I don't sleep. I hate those little pieces of death." He has a low, cold voice that seems to chill the air. Not a brag, but a crazy belief system, a way of life based on fear and passion. He thinks of sleep as giving up, not rest. He imagines being cut into tiny bits every time his eyelids close. He then falls into complete silence. He fights that every breath, and if he has to, he will fight the life of anyone who stands in his way. Some people think that the line came from Poe's Master of Darkness, but Walter Reich and Charles Brackett wrote it just for the script. Even though it's not Poe, it has Poe's spirit in it. It's cold, holy, and cuts to the core of people's fears about being eaten by the dark. I sometimes wonder if we haven't all had a moment like Saknussem. We're scared to close our eyes because we don't know what will happen. He says another line off key, as if to himself, "Only the weak dare sleep. I can't be so spoiled." 3. The movie was based on real science. When Jules Verne wrote the book in the 1800s, some geologists really believed in the hollow earth idea. The thought that there might be huge caves or even oceans below the Earth's surface. Scientists disagreed on whether the inside of the Earth was made of liquid lava or huge air pockets. That lack of certainty fed Verne's imagination, which made the story exciting while also being scientifically realistic enough for readers to believe in the impossible. Most of those ideas were shown to be false by 1959, but the movie's makers still wanted it to have a realistic feel to it. Geologists were consulted, natural structures were used to create the cave systems, data from Icelandic volcanoes was used to model the rock formations, and magnetic compass interference was added to make it look real. The crystal caverns, the strange ocean below, and the violent cracks in the volcano were all based on scientific ideas that were not very solid but made sense. The movie had a strong effect because it mixed science and fantasy. It asked the viewer a question that made them want to know more. What if? The movie told people that the earth beneath them might still hold huge secrets ready to come out in a time when the atom was being studied and people were looking into space. Into adventures that were out of this world. Based on Verne's book and the memory of a time when people were eager to discover new things. Travels to the Center of the Earth, 1864, was first turned into a movie called Journey to the Center of the Earth. The book that many of us read as kids and were thrilled by because of Jules Verne's deep, echoing writing. It was more than just an adventure. It was a call from the huge world, from the gentle loneliness of people facing the unknown. Fox made the dream come true with a story by Charles Brackett and Walter Reich and direction by Henry Levin. But in order to turn Verne's intellectual thoughts into a visual story, some things had to be given up. Added characters and changed the settings. Emotional speeding up. Brackett let out a sigh. "We were not able to be as angry as Verne." A statement that made me feel very human. You love a work so much, but you know you can only keep a small part of it. Still, those agreements led to a strange outcome. The movie had Verne's spirit, but it also had its own soul, which was younger, brighter, and sometimes very soft. People who saw it remembered the days when they thought opening a book would take them to another world. That might have been how you felt too. Verne taking you deeper into the dream of finding out things. And this movie gives me a small way to get back to that memory. 1. Its popularity started a new age of adventures underground. Journey to the Center of the Earth wasn't just a movie when it came out in 1959. There was a secret doorway opening right under the people in the room. For the first time, movies made people think that wonders were not just up in the sky, but also buried deep in rock, where the sound of human hearts beating could be heard over the vastness of the universe. It made almost $10 million, even though it cost more than $3 million to make. This was a big win at a time when underground adventures weren't common. More than just numbers, it sparked a new age of imagination that looked down into the dark, forgotten worlds instead of up. There are endless caves, huge mushroom forests, and animals from long ago. They were used as a new Hollywood language for decades, being copied, changed, and renewed. Its effects spread out like earthquake waves. The Indiana Jones. Even remakes made after 1959 have a bit of that 1959 trip in them. People who make movies unknowingly follow a pattern. They go into darkness, face danger, and look for a dim light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes at night while thinking about the movie. When I saw the blindingly white underground sea, my heart stopped. My breath got short as I felt the hot mud shake under their feet. Now, in the background of my mind, I hear a line that no one ever says but is always there. More we dig, the closer we get to something bigger. The movie Journey to the Center of the Earth isn't just a trip, it's also a journey through the minds and hearts of people who watch it. These 15 facts show that everything about the movie, from the story to the special effects to the strange characters, made it a vivid and unforgettable experience. Every scene with stubborn Gertrude the duck or the big salamanders was exciting and funny. This made the movie stand the test of time and become a symbol of fantasy and creativity in the 1950s. What about you? Like us, do you love Journey to the Center of the Earth? If you found these strange facts and behind-the-scenes stories interesting, please hit like and don't forget to subscribe to find out more about the movies that changed the course of entire eras of film. Because there is always a story that hasn't been told here ready to be found. And the trip has only just started.